Greetings, my comrades, and welcome back to Zonolith. In today's discussion video, we are going to be talking and taking a look at The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and what exactly is going to be going on with its sequel. We're going to be taking a look at everything we know about the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and create an overall representation about what we can expect at this time. Now, we really don't know much about Breath of the Wild sequel all just yet, but hopefully we learn some new information soon so we can create a better and more accurate representation of what to expect from the newest entry in the Zelda franchise. But for now, we have very limited things. Only the first trailer that was released for the game has been out, and that's the only information we have besides a few notes here and there by the Zelda team. So I don't want to waste any more time, guys. Let's get right into this discussion video. If you guys have any different opinions, feel free to leave it in the comment sections down below, and we can get into a really cool discussion down there. Again, my name is Zonolith, and please enjoy the video. So the first part that I want to talk about here is we're using the same Hyrule and the same physics engine. Now, the reason why Breath of the Wild took so long to make was due to the creation of the physics engine, and obviously having to create the whole open world, which was also aided by Monolith Soft, and they helped them create this huge open world that we got, which is now the Hyrule of Breath of the Wild 2. So what exactly is going to be going on with this now that they have all this figured out? Well, since the Zelda team is using the same Hyrule and the physics engine, this can most likely speed up the development time of the sequels of Breath of the Wild. Now, I highly doubt it's going to take as long as Breath of the Wild did to create a new Zelda game, especially since they're using the same assets. It's very similar to the situation in Majora's Mask, where they just reused a bunch of assets from Breath of the Wild and created a new Zelda game in 1 year. So maybe here, obviously, we didn't get a new Zelda game in 1 year. We didn't get Breath of the Wild 2 in 2018. Breath of the Wild 2 wasn't originally even supposed to happen. So I'm thinking, since that the whole assets and everything have been already created, they're using the same Hyrule, maybe this will take us to some new places. Maybe we can go underwater. Maybe we'll explore the underground, like many people are theorizing. So they have a lot of new ideas that they can do with the same Hyrule. I highly doubt they're just going to limit themselves to just plain on just taking the world from Breath of the Wild, putting it in Breath of the Wild 2, making a few things different and calling it a day. I highly doubt the Zelda team will do that. I think they're going to introduce a bunch of new areas such as underwater exploration, underground exploration, and who knows, maybe we can even go up higher into the sky and potentially even fly. Maybe the motorcycle from Breath of the Wild, except it's a jet. That'd be freaking insane. But yeah, so since everything is already here, we can probably expect Breath of the Wild 2 for a 2020 release. 2020 if we are really lucky, but I highly doubt that it's going to release with 2020 because due to this whole situation that's going on, and because most likely they're going to release this Zelda game with the Switch Pro or whatever the enhanced Switch is going to be, since the original Breath of the Wild was released for the Nintendo Switch and Link's Awakening was released for the Nintendo Switch Mini. So Zelda seems to follow every new Switch console that's released, so I wouldn't be surprised if they release the sequel to Breath of the Wild as a launch title for the Switch Pro. But highly doubt we're going to get it in 2022. Due to them revealing the game in 2019, and I think with Metroid Prime 4, they already knew the mistake they made after that happened. Everyone was expecting Metroid Prime 4 to come out sometime in like 2019, yet here we are in 2020, still probably only halfway through the development cycle of that game, and we're still waiting for it. It's probably going to be one of the last titles on Nintendo Switch for its lifespan, so they probably didn't want to make the same mistake that Nintendo made before with Metroid Prime 4, so I highly doubt 2022 is when we're going to be expecting this game. But yeah, we're using the same Hyrule and physics engine. That's something we do know. That's a fact we have clarified for us. The second thing I want to talk about is the possible return of classic dungeons. Dungeons are a very big staple for the Zelda franchise. However, Breath of the Wild decided to replace them with the Divine Beasts, and although those were really fun, I really personally enjoyed the Divine Beasts. I personally think that returning to the classic dungeons is what me and every Zelda fan really wants, but the only evidence we have for dungeons returning right now for Breath of the Wild 2 is this one little picture that looks sort of like a dungeon. We really don't know any clarification about what exactly this is. But yeah, and that's really all we have for dungeons returning. Fans criticized Breath of the Wild for the lack of dungeons, so I'm hoping that the Zelda team responds to this criticism, but as of right now, we have no clue if traditional dungeons are returning or if they're going to do something new, but I highly doubt they're going to reuse the Divine Beast again. That would be really boring. Part 3 for this video is going to be all about the music. I want an entirely new soundtrack, because if they're going to be using so many assets from Breath of the Wild, something to differ Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 from its predecessor is to create an entirely new soundtrack. I enjoyed the calm OST of Breath of the Wild, but I would like to go back to something a little bit more epic, such as the Dark World theme and a lot of other themes from the Zelda franchise that are a lot more epic, instrumental, orchestral, not just the calm piano of the Wild. And while I did enjoy that and I feel it fit the tone of Breath of the Wild well, I feel like personally this could work a lot better for Breath of the Wild 2, that it could differ it from the original, because in the original we would have the calm Breath of the Wild overworld theme, and here we could have an intense, orchestral, epic overworld theme that can kind of differ the two and show the two different situations. So finally, I want to talk about the tone and the story of the Breath of the Wild sequel. The Zelda team has stated that this game is probably going to have the darkest tone of any Zelda game, and the last Zelda game we've gotten a dark game for was Twilight Princess. That was the last game we got a dark tone. So maybe this game could be even darker than that, and potentially even darker than Majora's Mask, which I believe universally is stated to be the darkest Zelda game by Zelda fans. So now that we've gotten the tone out of the way, time to talk about the story. The story seems to be very interesting, especially because of this scene right here. Yes, Ganondorf is going to be making a return in Breath of the Wild, and there's a lot of theories and speculation as to why this is happening. Potentially, he's the source of the malice, the source of the Calamity Ganon, because everyone was like, hey, Calamity Ganon seems an awful lot like a Blight Ganon, and maybe Calamity Ganon was just that. Maybe he was just another creation created by this Ganondorf through this Ganondorf's anger and hatred and rage, and that's what led to the creation of the malice, the Calamity Ganon, the constant calamities. Maybe Zelda and Link are finally going to go after the source of the plague that has been plaguing Hyrule for the last 10,000 years. Also, this seemed to be going a little bit more into detail about the time gap between the Breath of the Wild series of games and the other games in the franchise, since the Legend of Zelda games before Breath of the Wild are just legends in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild series of games. So maybe we'll talk about the time gap in between there. Personally, I have a video I want to make discussing something I believe could have happened that relates to a brand new Ganondorf, that being the Ganondorf we see in the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 story trailer. The Green Hand also seemed interesting. I would love to learn more about that. Maybe it relates to either the Gerudo or the Zonai. Definitely go more into the Zonai. I want to see more about that. And hopefully we get more story info later on, and then we can create a better representation, an idea of what kind of story we're getting. Because right now we're just taking a bunch of different ideas, making some far-fetched opinions, and saying, hey, this could potentially work as a Zelda story. But again, right now nothing is confirmed. So again, yeah, the story looks to be very interesting, probably more interesting than Breath of the Wild, and I'm hoping it's a little bit more linear and a little bit more in-depth. Since Breath of the Wild had a very good story, they just executed it the wrong way. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. If you guys enjoyed it, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and to turn on all notifications so you're informed when I upload my next video. Also, please share these videos with your family and friends. Help this channel get out there. I'm hoping to create a large community, and you guys can hopefully join me on my journey. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace!